Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Alexander Kostopoulos. I'm the Secretary General of the AmCham, and it's an amazing pleasure and a privilege to moderate the discussion on innovation districts best practices with some of the most inspiring people on our forum today. We have with us Sjors Berns, Managing Director of Cambridge Innovation Center, Sjors Admiral, Business Development Director, High Tech Campus in Eindhoven, and Sjors Berns, Senior Manager Financial Advisor at Deloitte from Rotterdam. Unfortunately, Matt Bergiser from the University City District in Philadelphia couldn't be with us today. We most certainly look forward to welcome him in another event. It's time to carry on the discussion from where Vasilis left it, and to see how these amazing places, innovation districts, in these role models for the rest of the world, Boston, Eindhoven, and Rotterdam, were able to generate this amazing environment that sparkles growth and creativity. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Sjors, Sjors, and Sjors, hoping that I'm pronouncing the names correctly, and to invite, first of all, Sjors from the Cambridge Innovation Center to share, hopefully in a nutshell, his overview on that amazing thing that they have created there, and an overview of how innovation districts can reshape our markets and our lives. Sjors? I think we will have a small change, and we will start with Sjors from Rotterdam. Again, however, Rotterdam is still one of the most vibrant examples of this amazing innovation districts discussion. So again, welcome virtually in Thessaloniki, and looking forward to your overview.
Hi, Alexandros. Thank you for having me, of course, first of all. So I'm pleased to introduce the Rotterdam Innovation District indeed. I'm currently sharing my screen, I believe. Yes, there we go. Thank you. So this is the Rotterdam Makers District, and my name is Sjors Berns. Please call me George. That's the English version of my name, and typically goes easier. So I lead the Deloitte Real Estate Economics in the Netherlands. I focus on business cases, campus and ecosystem development, location strategy, and economic impact assessments. And since 2009, I've been working with the City of Rotterdam and the Port of Rotterdam on developing this amazing area, the Rotterdam Makers District. So my involvement with Rotterdam Makers District includes business case development, partnership governance, inward investment, innovation ecosystem development, and real estate developments. So a pretty broad spectrum of advisory services that I've delivered here. So let's move on to the Rotterdam Makers District. So as you can see on the screen, the Makers District comprises of the areas RDM Rotterdam, located at the south bank of the River Maas and the Merwe Vierhavens, or M4H, which is typically easier for English speaking people, located at what we call the west bank of the River Maas. So the Makers District has a strong maritime and industrial history. Today it's becoming a vibrant hub actually for innovative manufacturing, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to open up the Rotterdam Makers District and share some insights, especially because this was formerly a very typical and raw industrial and maritime area, and today it's transforming to this vibrant space. I'm really excited about it, and I'm hoping to share some of that excitement with you. So briefly go to the Makers District, which aspires to be the best location in the region for innovative manufacturing industry. It's a clear vision articulated by the city and the port jointly. And to live this vision, we give actually small and large companies the opportunity to experiment with new products and processes. Companies can invent here, they can test here, they can implement new technologies, and it's a testing ground and showcase for the new economy. And it's visible to everyone. It's visible for the people of Rotterdam. And the added value is that the Makers District has to offer is not just the physical space, but that of the business climate that encourages and boosts collaboration and entrepreneurship. Cooperation with knowledge and educational institutions in the region, it's crucial, with university, higher education, but also vocational education. This is where young people are introduced to the techniques of the future, and where new innovations arise. So basically 2 areas. RDM on the south bank is the hotspot for innovation in the port. It is home to education and knowledge institutions, basically, which allows for the creative crossovers that I just discussed. M4H on the West Bank is all about manufacturing at a larger scale. But in the future, it will also provide attractive residential space, allowing for more unexpected encounters. So in the Makers District is working hard to integrate the community of successful and innovative entrepreneurs with a broader regional innovation ecosystem. So what I'm keen to share is some lessons that we learned whilst developing the Rotterdam Makers District. Innovation district development, I think Julie also mentioned that, is a long-term process. In Rotterdam, public involvement from the city proved to be pivotal for its success. And this page presents 5 selected lessons that we learned whilst developing the Rotterdam Makers District. So the first one around setting a long-term vision for development. Not so much both for physical development as well as ecosystem development. Not so much to set a fixed dot on the horizon as a specific target, but to articulate a direction for development, providing an anchor point for stakeholders and partners to co-invest and to start working with you on the development of the ecosystem. The second one around connecting the innovation district with the city's DNA. Embed the innovation district in the regional ecosystem so that all partners and parties in the region can benefit and jointly can spur future developments, including with possible launching customers for the ecosystem. For instance, in Rotterdam, the Port of Rotterdam, one of the leading ports in the world. Connect with adjacent neighborhoods and allow that population to benefit from the emergence of the ecosystem as well. There are some poorer neighborhoods adjacent to the innovation district, and connecting them allows for a more equal spread of value. The third one is really about initiate content-based programming, what we do. So connect the wider ecosystem again, including startup funding. Rotterdam organized and facilitates a local maker district programming for companies, education institutions, and the likes that are located specifically at the Makers District, but it also connected the Makers District with programming done by Rotterdam-based Cambridge Innovation Center, of which Stas Geyser will probably explain a bit more, CIC. It's critical here is not to drive this from the city hall, from a public entity, but let the ecosystem partners drive and deliver this themselves. They know best what they require, what their focus is. The fourth one is around initiate and drive strategic real estate developments. This is really from a physical perspective. Identify the developments that have the potential to catalyze other developments and actively stimulate these developments to make sure that the area is growing with the ecosystem itself. And the fifth and last one is to organize public-private cooperation for delivering value in the development of the ecosystem. We believe that the city should take the lead in order to kickstart the project or the process, but it's critical to involve partners to allow for a smooth transitioning towards some more private involvement down the road, and actually let the ecosystem drive their own development. So these are 5 lessons that I wanted to share with you, Alexandros. And the Rotterdam Makers District is rapidly turning into a vibrant business area with housing, a wide range of facilities, culture and events as well. But it's work in progress, and it will be work in progress for the many years to come. I think that's something that characterizes many innovation districts around the world. Thank you for allowing me to introduce the Rotterdam Makers District, and look forward to hearing some of the other speakers and to continue the panel discussion. Back to the studio.
In the beginning, I would suggest, since we overlapped the initial listing, to stay in Europe and invite Ses Admiral from Eindhoven with us to give us as well his overview on what exactly is happening in Eindhoven and how the innovation district there has sparkled that creativity and change that we all look forward. Ses, if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. I think you have turned off your mic.
Yes, thank you.
This is why I think we need the innovation districts to leave behind us the torturing of the virtual calls and sessions and get together once again physically.
Yes, thank you for. Thank you, Mr. Kostopoulos, for inviting and to give me the opportunity to explain something about High Tech Campus. My presentation is in your hands, so I would like to ask the director to change the slides. I want to explain something about the southern part of the Netherlands called Brabant, and we're nicely positioned in the western part of Europe, close to big cities like Rotterdam, the former speaker, but also close to Düsseldorf and Paris and London. And just to explain something about Brabant, there is a population of 2.5 million people, and it's in the southern part. Can we pass on to the next slide, please? And next, yes, please. And Brabant is particularly known for its R&D activities. So 50% of the research money that is spent in the Netherlands originate in the province of Brabant. And as a matter of fact, as a consequence of that, we have the highest economic growth in the Netherlands for already many years. Can you show the next slide? Probably you know that Philips originates from Eindhoven. ASML, a very famous manufacturer of semiconductor equipment, originates from Eindhoven. Also, many important tech companies like Philips Lighting, Signify, and NXP are located in this place. And what I want to explain you how we have organized our high-tech campus. So the next slide, there you see the picture of what the high-tech campus is. Actually, it is a square kilometer of very innovative companies located all together, very close to the city of Eindhoven. You can see on the photograph. And I want to explain what the past, present, and future of this area is. Can we move on to the next slide? So we were founded by Philips. Philips located its long-term research organization over there, and we changed to an open innovation district in 2005. And we introduced open innovation as one of the first in Europe, being helped by a lot of Harvard professors. And we grew from only one location, Philips Research, to 230 companies right now. And we changed from application areas. First, we started with high-tech hardware developments. And now we are also focusing on software and especially AI activities. And can we move to the next slide? There we can focus on the key characteristics of the campus. Already explained, over 230 companies are located over there. 12,000 smart people work here, and it's a very international location for two main reasons. First of all, the companies, they recruit on international level because they want to have the best people, not from a specific nationality. And second, we promote diversity because out of diversity come the best ideas. So we want to have multi-talents, talents both in the technical sense, but also in economics and also in engineering. But also, for instance, especially when you talk about AI, we need people who graduate in law schools. So it's very important, the mix of the people working here is as broad as possible. So can we move on to the next slide? We started with the concept of open innovation as introduced by Henry Chesbrough. And we have a nice mix of companies, multinationals, already mentioned companies like Philips, ASML, but also IBM, Intel are there. Small, medium enterprises, often in the role as a supplier or partner to those multinationals. We have research institutes like IMEC from Belgium or TNO from the Netherlands. We have service companies. So think about patent offices just to make life easy for the companies located over here. And last but not least, quite a big number of startups. And the mix of those companies makes it interesting, because if we would only have multinationals, it would probably be very boring. If we would only have startups, we would probably be bankrupt before Christmas. So we have a nice balance in stability and in risk, which makes this ecosystem quite attractive for companies. Next slide, please. These are the focus areas where we deal with. So I will briefly explain them. We are active in the area health and vitality, meaning both the curing part as well as the preventive part of the health sector. We have smart environments and connectivity as application area, sustainable energy and storage, and also, and more from the last year, we have added software and platforms, and of course, very important as a future new technology, applied intelligence. So everything that has to do with artificial intelligence. We've also set up, in cooperation with some big companies, an AI innovation center to stimulate AI technologies overall the campus. And my last slide, I will show you that it is very stimulating to have at the heart of the campus a central building where all social activities take place. So in all the individual buildings, there are no restaurants allowed anymore. So the restaurants are all located in this building. You see it in the picture. It's centrally located, and people like the concept because there are no restaurants or catering facilities in the buildings anymore. It's all concentrated in the central building. So this stimulates people to meet other people during lunchtime or during drinking a cup of coffee in the Grand Cafe, or when you're in the conference center, you can easily meet new people. And this is a very nice concept to stimulate people to contact other persons, and that's the first step for cooperation, of course. So this is my first introduction about the campus. Maybe we can discuss the concept in more detail when we have the discussion afterwards. Thank you.
Most certainly we will. Thank you so much. I'd like to move quickly, since we moved beyond the original listing, to Stas Gayson, Managing Director of Cambridge Innovation Center in Boston. Again, to give us an overview of what exactly is happening in Boston and how they have managed to create such an amazing environment there. If you're ready, Stas. Good afternoon. Welcome to Thessaloniki.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to being able to do these in person.
We do too.
So thank you very much. I think it's important. I wanted to have this conversation without slides, because I wanted to talk a little bit about the human element of what it means to build an innovation ecosystem. So I think it's really, really critical to think about innovation as a human-centered process, and especially from our place. So Cambridge Innovation Center is a shared office space for startup companies. We've been around now for 21 years, and we started in Cambridge, as our name speaks, but we are now also in Miami, in St. Louis, in Philadelphia, and in Providence, Rhode Island, in the United States. And outside the US, we are, as you heard, in Rotterdam, right by Central Station, in Tokyo, and in Warsaw, and we're looking forward to growing that footprint once the world comes back a little bit more to normal. And really what we want to do is ask a very foundational question. How can we build the physical infrastructure for innovation layered on top with the social infrastructure for innovation in a way that allows people to go from idea to early stage product in a successful way? And for us, this is a business that operates a physical space, but that physical space is not in itself the product, because anybody could build an office. It doesn't take something. Anybody could walk into our space, take a lot of photos, and build something that looks a lot like our space. And over the last 20 years, some people have. But the critical missing element is the human element. And it's easy to talk about, but hard to do. So I want to talk about why that impacts us. But I think first it's useful to think about a certain kind of framing about what actually is innovation, and what's the difference between the person with the really crazy idea and the person who's taken that crazy idea and turned it into something that is a company, and that innovation is then brought to the world. So I remember when I founded my first company, people would often come to me and they would say to me, how did you come up with this idea? And it's fascinating because it ultimately is the wrong question. And I think a lot of the construction of innovation ecosystems is about finding the right answers to the right questions. And it starts with asking the right question. So the right question for an innovator is not, how did you come up with the idea? Because frankly, while it's usually a great story, and oftentimes the story is embellished, sometimes involving garages, and all sorts of other things. The truth of the matter is, it's not that important how you come up with your idea. In the same sense that if you think about this from the perspective of somebody who's married, it's not that important where you met. It's a beautiful thing to talk about. And you say, I met my spouse in this place. But the fundamental element of marriage is, how do you work on the marriage? How do you make it work every day? And similarly, the fundamental thing about innovation is not where did you have the idea and how did you have the idea, but how have you taken that idea and made it an idea not only yours, but also an idea of other people, the people you brought into the company as investors, the people you brought into the company as colleagues, the people you brought into the company as partners, the people you brought in the company as suppliers, the people you brought into the company in the ultimate most important question is as customers. So how have you taken your crazy idea and made it something valuable to others, solve the problem that they have, and continue doing it at a bigger and bigger and bigger scale? And that's ultimately the question of innovation. It's not, did you come up with the idea? How did you come up with the idea? Or what was the idea? It's, did you make the idea relevant to other people? Did you engage them on the journey? And did you scale it to be relevant? So that's the question that we want to ask around when we're thinking about building innovation ecosystems, is how do we incentivize not only the ideating, but how do we incentivize the process of ideation to reality and reality to scaling? And that is a combination of business mindset, venture capital, and also the idea that you're plugging other people into the journey for whom the thing is valuable. And this is often the thing that gets missed. The customer is the first person to whom the product is marketed. It's the first person to whom the product is sold. But it's ultimately the only person to whom the product is valuable. And that's something that gets missed in the creation of innovation ecosystems. So what does all of that have to do with building physical office spaces? So we think about physical office space as the place in which these interactions are moderated. So you heard a previous speaker talk about putting the restaurant only in one building so that everybody's forced to collide. We do something similar by filling our kitchens and having incredibly nice kitchens with lots and lots and lots of open seating space and lots of food. And at least this is how we were thinking about it in the pre-COVID world and the world that we'll come back to after COVID. That the kitchen is a place where the interaction is not specifically curated, that the interaction is engineered for longevity, but not curated by design. So we don't want to say, okay, at noon, one engineer, one investor, and one CEO walk into the kitchen and they have to sit at the table for 10 minutes and come up with an idea. What we want to do is we want to make the kind of kitchen that is an interesting place to hang out. So that when you get a cup of coffee, you're not immediately tempted to run back to your office and sit down, but you are tempted to sit and see who else is there and run into somebody you haven't met and have a conversation with them and engineer that way. And it turns out that if you do engineer this, you can create some really remarkable things. So in Cambridge, our buildings there, which are all next to one another, represent more venture capital than all but 3 states in the United States. So I'm going to say that again because it's pretty critical. There's more venture capital in CIC's buildings in Cambridge than there is in all states in the United States except for California, New York, and Massachusetts. We're in Massachusetts. So there's more venture capital in CIC's buildings than in the entire state of Texas. There's more venture capital in CIC's buildings, to put this on an international context, than in the United Kingdom. And the reason for that is because if you properly build that community, you can actually create an environment that so welcomes that interaction that you can get to a place where people are engaging and participating and plugging in, building around these fundamental questions. So for us, and I really appreciate AmCham of Greece for putting this together, because I think it's really Greek philosophy where a lot of our foundational questions were taught, which is what's the best way to live life and why do we do it like this? these are questions inherently critical to our path towards opening the door for innovation. So within the CIC community, there are more than 1,000 companies just in Cambridge, and many, many, many more in our other cities. There is venture capital, there are government institutions, there are international institutions, and there are large companies who want to have a presence for their innovation on. And all of them are physically located in the space because physical density is really keen to creating a place for interaction. So today's innovation is brought by the intersection between disciplines. So what makes autonomous vehicles real? Electric power, better battery technology, and artificial intelligence, and vision. You're not going to get that unless you put all the people who are doing these interesting things in a place where they can interact. And physical buildings are the first place, neighborhoods are the second place, cities are the third place. And so when we think about building innovation ecosystems, it's not just about the physical spaces and social conversations that are happening in them, but it's also the locations and ecosystems that want to bridge that gap. That's why we're, for example, in Rotterdam, because it's at the central station, because we want to be at the hub of physical human activity and also at a location of intellectual and social activity, a place connected to a lot of others. We think about the city as a macro version of the innovation center and the innovation center as a micro version of the city. It's a place where people who are unlike one another can interact and engage. So I think with that, I just want to close on saying that the journey of the entrepreneur, the one that we're trying to engineer for, is really the journey of a very, very crazy person who has an idea and then engages other people in the realization of that idea and turning that idea from concept to reality to scaling. And that what we're thinking about building our innovation pathway, we really want to think about how do we encourage the idea stage, the reality stage, and the scaling stage. And so how do we help people generate the idea? How do we help them bring in others? So that is co-founders, partners, customers, employees. And how do we help them scale? And that usually means partners like large multinational corporations, whether they're partners, co-sellers, or customers. That's the journey we're trying to encourage when we build our innovation ecosystems. And we're trying to help these crazy folks convince others and then sell to the world. So that's the kind of the innovation journey. It happens a lot in our spaces, but ultimately that's how the key point to innovation ecosystems is enabling that path by asking the why questions along the way and helping that really crazy person become a little bit less crazy and a little bit more connected by realizing and then scaling the venture. So with that, I want to turn back to the speaker. Thank you for inviting me here. Really honored and excited for these conversations and looking forward to your questions in the chat. Happy to talk through and talk a little bit more about this. I have a huge passion for this topic and I'm really excited to be here. Thanks so much for the invitation.
Stas, thank you so much. I remember a few years ago, we had the privilege to visit CIC in Boston. It was an amazing experience. I have tons of questions. I think I will hijack the rest of the forum and discuss only with you three. And it will be a fascinating thing to do. And then everyone will hunt me down. My first question actually it goes to all of you. Just before our session, we had Julie Wagner with us, and she mentioned that one of the most important challenges with regard to innovation districts is to be able to take all the local leaders, in this case, and agree how they will join forces to achieve more and grow more together. So my question is, given your experiences, how difficult it is for all those different mentalities that can be found in local leaders to come together and join forces into sort of a manifestation of we will achieve more together rather than each one separately. I don't know, whoever wants. Stas, since you are the last.
Sure. Yeah, maybe I'll let me just say 30 seconds. I actually think it's okay for people to disagree. In fact, the best entrepreneurship comes from people who say what everyone else is doing is wrong. Let me go do a thing. And for the leaders to support that is critical. I think there's a piece to this that's a fascinating one. In Boston, one of the things that has made Boston so special in terms of developing an innovation community, and something that we look for when we grow to places around the world, is an individual willingness to first do and then ask, what will this do for me? And in the best places, people don't ask that at all. They just assume it will work itself out. So it's an interesting thing about the leaders. This is the question to ask them: is can you do without getting back? Can you do that first and ask the question? You have to ask this question because otherwise people assume if I do something for you, you do something for me. The best, most interesting connections that have ever happened in the innovation space have happened because somebody did not ask for anything back for the good that they were doing. Because they knew that if the ecosystem works properly, it will pay back many times their original investment, whether of time, money, or connections. And that's I think the thing that's made Boston special. The other side of that connects to it is you have to punish people who are not good players. So if somebody cheats, if somebody doesn't tell the truth, if somebody is a bad actor in the ecosystem, the way to do that is to not include them in the conversations. So you don't have to do anything harder than that, but simply don't include them. And so you want to include the good and not include the bad. And then when you do that over a series of cycles, you'll filter for the best. And then that ecosystem ends up working. So you don't need to pre-agree. You just need to create benefits for good behavior, penalties for bad behavior, and then run the cycle. And then every few months, you'll see the good people will get more power and the bad people will get less, and the ecosystem will improve. And that's what works.
Says your view. Was it that difficult in Eindhoven?
Yes. I think in the Netherlands, people used to have long-term working relations with a specific company. And so there is a high level of loyalty to those global companies where people work. And if you work for a global company, you get a little bit isolated because you're promoted to be successful within your team. And I think the challenge is to stimulate people also to do activities outside their main responsibilities within a global company. So once you see what's happening in technology development at startups, you realize there is so much more than only the way of working and the way of thinking and the way of cooperating within your global company. And I think when we stimulated people working for global companies to be able to contact within the network, to be in contact with young people that work in startup companies, they realized, hey, my world is getting too small. I should do something extra to get motivated from those young people working at startups. And I think that's a key to sharing information and to be part of a real active ecosystem. That's our experience, I think.
That's true. George,
Yes.
Rotterdam, out of that slide that you showed us, seems such a huge project. Again, was it difficult to bring all those stakeholders together?
Definitely, it's a huge project or process, like you mentioned. Indeed, I think it spans a couple of 100 hectares of area. It's different than the concept, of course. Stas is running Cambridge Innovation Center. It's a district or basically an area focused on trying to initiate these interactions and to facilitate these interactions and to drive innovation based on these interactions and bringing together the stakeholders to work on this together has been a challenge in Rotterdam indeed. And I think that one of the critical success factors here, and maybe the learnings, is to, but maybe that's a Dutch habit as well, is to really cooperate, and it's called the Polder model, and to basically give and take, and to create an appealing vision for the district, and Rotterdam adopted the Makers District, but to create an appealing vision for this Makers District, set the dot on the horizon, not as like I mentioned, a fixed point, but as a anchor point for partners to co-invest and to invite them and to co-invest and to work with you on further developing the region. And like Stas mentioned, join us or please do join us. And if you don't want to join us, fine with this. You don't have to agree, but we'll end up with the ones that want to work with us the most.
Don't get in our way. How difficult? How difficult is to attract your new sort of players? Says you mentioned about a number of multinational companies that have embarked on the journey of Eindhoven. I'm sure this is the case with Rotterdam and the Boston as well. So moving from the initial group of principals, is it solely a situation where people are just knocking on your door because they see the potential, or there is an approach on how to attract potential new players?
No, we have to work quite hard to be successful. So sometimes we're helped because people knock on our doors. You're right, but in general, I think because of the mix of companies we have several successful cases that attracts again both multinational companies as well as startups. And we closely work together with the University of Eindhoven, so including the network of the global companies, we have quite an impressive network on a worldwide level. So we can easily be in contact with interesting companies that are active in our application areas. And that's the main source of leads and prospects for us. And of course, we always are very eager to be in contact with startups that fit in the ecosystem, meaning we can add value for those startup companies, and we can demonstrate they can be more successful here than in any other place in the world. That's typically also what is happening in Cambridge Innovation Center. Of course, you try to make a location where companies can be more successful than any other area within let's say a couple of 100 miles, and then you can be very attractive for companies.
Thank you, Stas. On attracting new players, principals that can add value to the ecosystem, what is your secret?
There's not much of a secret. I think if you think about it from a perspective of the area, it's very useful if you have a very good research university, like across the street from you. For example, let's just hypothetically call one MIT. If you were to pick any three letters, for us, and Cambridge, that's been very helpful. Or let's say, for example, if somebody built a massive hub train station that's a few minutes from the airport and they just happen to call it Rotterdam Central. Just hypothetically, again, we're speaking. So look, there are structural elements that are absolutely critical, and we choose our locations based on not only what we ourselves will build, but what other partners in the ecosystem have created, whether they're university partners, government partners, or structural things like railway stations that are done by governments or kind of other similar actors. I think what's been very helpful for us in terms of talking with I think about them as scaling partners, government funds, large corporations who can kind of plug into innovation and say, okay, you have a really good idea. Is it okay if I help you sell this thing halfway around the world in a place where we know the regulations, but maybe you don't? Or can I take this technology and can I adopt it in a product that I have? Because this concept is very useful. You may have a good AI concept, but let's apply it to looking whether fruit has fungus so that we can figure out automatically if fruit going down an assembly line before being packaged is good or bad, so it doesn't spoil the whole batch. Being able to kind of make those connections is very valuable. For us, we found that large corporations are actually incredibly hungry for new ideas because, as we've seen, for a lot of large companies, they have trouble generating new ideas. They're incredible at engineering, scaling, making more efficient the production of what they're currently working on. So doing something that they're currently doing 5% better is incredibly easy for them, and it's what they work on every day. But coming up with something that is completely different is very difficult because every process in a large company is, how do we do the thing we're doing better, faster, cheaper in more places? That doesn't say, what if we were doing something else completely? And so we found that multinationals and kind of their large-scale scaling partners are super interested, but they have to see what's innovation, and they have to see where the innovation is real. So part of our job is to also showcase what's happening. And again, I think this is where there's a lesson for Thessaloniki. How do we show the world what's happening here? And that's the lesson for every innovation ecosystem, because until you know, you don't know. And then when you have that, what Seth was talking about a bit is part of it is a consultative conversation. So even when somebody knocks on your door and they say, we want to be here, you ask them why and how could we make your state valuable? And that's whether you're the innovation center or the city or the district. Because if their state is valuable, they'll tell everybody. And if it isn't valuable, they'll also tell everybody. And so you want to make sure that you're being helpful, not in looking at the long term is, can I give value to my partners so that they say, this is the place. I remember when Amazon was looking where they're going to locate in the US, their second headquarters, and they were looking at a number of cities and they ran this national contest. Boston lost the contest, but we all think that actually won because Amazon said, they were going to put 50,000 jobs in exchange for this huge amount of money, incentives and tax grants. And Boston said, look, we can't really do that for you, but we do have these universities and all of this other stuff. And Amazon said, okay, well, we might not put 50,000 workers. What if we put 10,000 engineers and you don't have to pay us anything, right? And you would always rather have 10,000 engineers that you didn't have to pay for than 25,000 or 50,000, business people that you might have had to pay for. So, those are the kind of things that if you provide the right environment, people can't resist. They'll come to you anyway. And then you value to what they're doing. And then they add value to by their stay.
Thank you so much. You are describing a totally different ball game. And I agree with you that Thessaloniki is actually pretty close to getting to that mentality. Back in 2018, when we started with USAT, all those companies were so reluctant to see the opportunities, and now more and more they're coming to this amazing city. George, how, given the similarities between Rotterdam and Thessaloniki, of course, the difference in scale as well. What would be the biggest challenge that you see for a regional, smaller city like Thessaloniki to cultivate an innovation district in an internationally competitive manner?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. That's an interesting question indeed, and I think that building on Stas's comments just a few minutes ago, I think that the greatest challenge here, especially for a smaller regional player, which is Rotterdam too, which we had the same challenge with, but is to really showcase your examples and showcase the success stories and tell the world to what can be done in Thessaloniki and what has been done in Thessaloniki. And you only know till you know, like mentioned before. So I think that's the biggest challenge here for Thessaloniki is to showcase and to let the world know that what cool stuff is happening here. That's really the trick. And from a attracting companies perspective, indeed, it's on the one side selling the ecosystem should sell itself. So the launching customers and the startups should. If they are the ambassadors of the region, then they will tell the story of the Thessaloniki ecosystem vividly. Launching customers are very nice to have, of course, because they'll attract other companies and especially startups. But these smaller companies are especially very interesting and relevant for the launching customers, for the larger companies as well. On the other hand, attracting companies, especially on the edge of your current ecosystem, will drive future growth, and that will also introduce new innovations and the not expected or the unexpected new entrants to the ecosystem will bring a new vibe to the ecosystem, could introduce new ideas and spur innovation. I think that's something that Thessaloniki could learn from and identify these edges of the current ecosystem to further invest in that.
Says, given your experience, is the collaboration with the broader region around Eindhoven something that was an easy task, in the sense that Thessaloniki stands in a unique location that can attract opportunities, talent, and ideas from a broader area around them, not solely from Greece, but also from other neighboring countries as well. Would you see such a potential for Thessaloniki? Was this something that you had as an experience in Eindhoven?
Yeah, I think we are in the lucky position that we have some of the world famous global companies, which I mentioned, Philips and ASML, located over here. So there is a question to international well-educated people to work here. From the other hand, I think if you look to software platforms and AI, they are disciplines that you should do in an international level. So our AI Innovation Center works closely with people in Paris and in London as well. So we work over there with Amazon, we work with Accenture, and they're not located within the AI Innovation Center, but they do that online. So I would suggest to you to start working on an international basis, especially when you're in the position to work with AI. If you work on high-tech hardware, of course, you need proximity and you need shared use of infrastructure. But if it comes to activities like AI, for sure, I think it's really stimulating for both your own region as well as for the engineers that work over there to make contact on international level. Yes.
Thank you so much. Stas, a final question actually for all three of you, because we're running out of time. Unfortunately, they didn't let me hijack the rest of the forum. So my question has to do with creating a broader growth for the community, not only for those inspired, super creative, talented, highly empowered people that will directly be part of the innovation district or the innovation center, but the broader local community. Do you see in Eindhoven, in Rotterdam, in Boston, or in the other places of CIC that positive impact in the local communities, especially in a period full of immense challenges? Stas?
Sure. Sure. So I could speak about this for like 3 hours. So you've made the mistake giving me the microphone first. But I'll do my best to limit myself to 30 seconds. Look, CIC actually, as part of our response to COVID, we stood up an initiative called CIC Health, which I'm actually the general counsel of. And we've delivered 1 million vaccines, a little bit more than that now. And we've done 2 million COVID tests in the Boston area. So, when you have an entrepreneurial spirit, you're always going to engage as a local problem solver first. And the list of things that we've worked with and coordinated is really long and would take a lot longer to answer than I have here. But I think if you think about, okay, how do I make innovation local? How do I make it locally beneficial? We're always asking ourselves this question. And one of the critical answers has to do with how do you keep innovation to stay, as opposed to your company is formed in your area and then goes and grows somewhere else. And of course, I don't need to say this, but out loud, but it's well known that there are a lot of very promising Greek startups in New York and London. And so how do you keep them in Thessaloniki? And I think the answer, by the way, is that COVID has taught us that we can work from anywhere. And so that means that you can actually keep your company wherever you want it to, as long as there's a reason. And so for me, that says that when you have to make your ecosystem two things: easy to get into and hard to leave. So I have to be able to come and get my company to get going very easily, but it should be so amazing to stay here that I don't want to go. If you try to keep me, entrepreneurs will find their way out of any kind of handcuffs you put them into. But the one handcuffs they don't want to leave are good people and a good place to live. So if you're making a place if you make a place that's easy to get into and hard to leave, people will come and they'll stay. And then the other piece of that is invest in people who are local and help your local companies find local talent. Because one of the things that I've seen in kind of my travels around the world is that it looks to me that if a company reaches about 10 employees locally based, it will not leave. And this is an interesting lesson born. You can look at a neighboring Mediterranean country, Israel. So, a lot of Israeli startups are built to scale globally. And when they scale globally, they leave huge operations in Israel. And the reason they do that is because they tend to get to a size where, maybe some piece of the business, maybe the sales, or maybe some other piece moves to Europe or the US or Australia, or some other part of the world, but the local innovation ecosystem grows. And so the trick to that is helping the startups get to 10. Because if they're 2 or 3, it's very easy to tell 2 people, hey, come to London, we have everything set up for you. But if the place is easy to come into, hard to leave, and you've got 10 people there, they're staying, they're growing, they're building your local ecosystem. And thank you so much again.
Thank you so much, and thank you for avoiding the 3 hours answer. Ses, your view on how we are, whether you still in Eindhoven in broader social impact?
Yeah, I think it's a very nice question. Actually, we have, during this week, we have Dutch Technology Week. So we get in a lot of young people from all kind of educations, and we explain what is happening over here. And then you see an amazing process going on, because those young people they compare what they are doing, so playing football, with the technology that is shown here. They compare what they are doing for their job as a waitress in a restaurant with the technology done here. And there is a lot of talk about that, and they are really stimulated when they see what is possible if we explain what's going on in, let's say, health business. There is interaction with the young people, and they add what is happening, what could happen with technology in their own environment. So it's really a very good way to stimulate a different way of thinking. And so we benefit very much from interacting with all the persons within the city of Eindhoven, because first of all, they are interested in what we are doing, and so they spread the word. But second, they also themselves, they create a different way of thinking about their own activities. So it's a really nice process to involve all kind of persons from the broader area with technology, because they like it.
Thank you so much.
Sometimes to explain.
Thank you so much. George, your 30-second question, because they have started to throw things on me.
Thank you. I'll keep it short indeed, and I'll take a more a public side perspective on this, because companies are doing a great job on this, but I think it could even thrive if public policies in place that creates a backbone of services with local involvement. And in this sense, to Rotterdam, for instance, is actively stimulating involvement of local entrepreneurs in the Makers District, from high-tech startups to selecting local catering and transport services. I think the city or the public entity governing the governing entity could play a pivotal role in here and could actually facilitate this spread of wealth over the region, and to make sure that there's a social perspective on this as well.
Thank you so much. I have to, since I have you all on camera, I have to make you promise me that next time we will meet in Thessaloniki in person to monitor and value our progress, how we will have built this amazing new innovation district Thessaloniki. Thank you so much, Stas, Ses, and George, for giving us the opportunity to learn so much about Boston and Eindhoven and Rotterdam. I'm so sorry that Matt could have been here with us to speak with us about Philadelphia as well. Thank you all so much for participating in that session, and I apologize to the next session for getting a little bit late in starting off. Again, thank you so much. Have a nice afternoon. Thank you.